Welcome back, everyone. We have another show for you. We have some really good guests standing by. We have a lot of people on social media. Steve is standing by. And of course, anything that I say is definitely not meant to replace your medical care. So check with your doc before implementing any of the things we're about to tell you. All right, so we're going to dive right into this. And Steve, where do you think we should start?
Well, we've got, four beautiful contestants on with us, as we call them. And Carrie, unfortunately, we couldn't get her camera working, so she's going to come on like a phone call. But since we only have four, why don't we save them for a little while, and we'll start off with, how about a shout out to everybody watching? And let me start off with our guests. So Christina is from my old haunts in Irvine, California. We've got poor Carolyn freezing her butt off in Colorado Springs. Let's see, we've got Janice from Eastern Pennsylvania. I know that Karen would have something to say to her. And then Carrie is from wherever, but I'll make sure I know where that is. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I lost my note. Anyway, and here's what else is happening around the world. So we have viewers coming to us from the UK, Canada, Uganda, Zambia, Jordan, South Africa, Grenada, Sweden, Jakarta, haven't heard from them before, India, France, Pakistan, Mexico, Israel, the Netherlands, Norway, Taiwan, Trinidad, Puerto Rico, Greece, Algeria, good grief, Belgium, Germany, Iraq, Switzerland, Maldives, Scotland, Iceland, Japan, Italy, Hong Kong, Egypt, come on, Chile, Brazil, Morocco, Cameroon, South Korea, and Australia, New Zealand, the motherland of Ethiopia. That's interesting. Thailand, Dubai, the Philippines, Nicaragua, Peru, Vietnam, and all across these United States. That is by far the longest list we've ever had, and we tip our hat to Terry for typing all that. He probably just got a world geography book out. It's just hacking down names. No, these are all genuine people. So let's see. And why don't we kick it off with a question from social media? Let's see. Grace from YouTube. Will an apple a day mess up keto enough to stop weight loss?
Well, apple a day will definitely keep you out of keto and definitely won't keep the doctor away unless you shoot it really, really hard at him, which I don't recommend doing that. But the apples nowadays are not the apples that we ate way back, when apples were like more tart, a lot less sugar. Now we bred them to have more carbohydrate, more sugar, unfortunately. So you're eating 19 grams of sugar, not even carbohydrate, sugar. So, in fact, that was the one thing that I kept in thinking that was good. I even recommended in my first book, like apples and peanut butter, and I ate several through the day. And I think it was 211 pounds of course, pure muscle. And then I went down to 185 when I cut out the apples and the snacking. So yeah, apples will not keep the doctor away, unfortunately.
So you're saying stevia in apples and bake them up, you're still getting killed on the sugar, aren't you?
Yeah, because it's the actual apple. And then when you cook it and bake it, you make it turn into sugar even more. So you have this, because you break down the carbohydrates, just like a potato. I mean, you can go ahead and eat a raw potato all you want, but as soon as you cook it, it breaks down the starch, and then it increases the glycemic index.
What a jip. All right, let's see here. Let's go to MC from YouTube. Why is that after a hard leg workout, I'm craving cookies or sweets?
Well, because you're burning off your glucose and you haven't adapted to fat yet. So it takes a while, 1 to 3 months to get into fat adaptation, where you're actually a fat burner. You're oxidizing fats, and you can work out and pull your fat reserves. Excuse me. If you haven't adapted and you work out, you just deplete your sugar because you're running on sugar, and then now you're going to be craving sugar.
All right. Well, and by the way, social media. See, I came to you first today. We want to pay you due respect. We usually put you number 2 or 3 out, but not today. And so Mickey from YouTube, here's the last one before we go to our first quiz question. Does powdered milk have the same amount of hormones as regular milk?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Positively. And it's, sometimes people try to find the powdered milk for a formula. If you do that, I would go for goat's milk and try to get it organic, because the cow's milk is There's so many allergies. There's so many issues with that hormonally. Even if it says no RBST, which is another hormone thing. So if you're going to do it, I would go for the goat's milk powder.
Very good. Okay, we got some really fun questions today, and here's the first one.
All right. What is the emotional symptom of high blood glucose, high blood sugar? So like when your blood sugars go higher, what emotional symptom shows up?
Okay, interesting. Now let's go to Carrie, who's in the green room, and unfortunately we couldn't get her camera to work, but her voice is wonderful. So Carrie, you're on with Dr. Berg. Go ahead with your question.
Hi there. Thank you, Steve. Yes. First of all, Steve, I'm from Texas.
Texas, that's where she's from, and she told me that.
Yeah.
But to keep my desk neat,
Okay.
I tore up my notes and threw them away. Sorry about that. So Carrie from
Okay.
Texas.
No problem at all. Hi, doctor. Thank you so much
Hi.
for letting me talk to you. I am been very frustrated. You know, I'm a master gardener and I specialize in medicinal foods. I have helped people for many, many years with their own digestive issues, and I've always been healthy overall. I'm 58. I'm 5'4". I'm 117 pounds, so it's not really a weight issue. My brother turned me on to watching all of your videos so I could try and diagnose myself. He, by the way, has lost 100 pounds, and I cannot believe his health is incredible after following your plan of the really strict keto and the intermittent fasting. So I started it 5 weeks ago, and my symptoms were and have been over the last 7 years. I've been struggling with this, continually getting worse. I'm sorry. Oh, I thought I heard something. Okay. So bloating, fatigue after I eat, 20 minutes exactly, I sneeze. So I'm thinking allergic reactions. The nausea can be so bad, I have to sit down and relax after I eat. Dizziness. I'm looking over here. After looking at your videos, I'm looking at adrenal cortisol related. And just last night, this is very timely. After eating, again, very strict, I'm fasting 20 to 22. Yesterday, I fasted 24 hours. I ate, my stomach was just churning. And then that area in the gallbladder and liver started spasming, and it hasn't left me. All through the night, I remain bloated, and there's discomfort. It's not horrible pain, but there's definitely discomfort. I'm eating as clean as you can eat. I'm taking the non-fortified nutritional yeast. I'm afraid of the bile salts, haven't done that yet. And then lastly, the only things I truly can eat without any issues would be sardines, salmon, kimchi, and sauerkraut.
Got it. Okay, so a couple questions. Do you find that you bloat the more fiber that you eat?
I've been trying to watch that, and I would have to say would bloat more, but I still bloat no matter what I eat. I ate a handful of arugula the other day. Not only did I sneeze, but I was bloating as well.
Okay. Have you tried betaine hydrochloride?
No, I have not.
Do you have any problems underneath the right rib cage as far as a full, tight feeling that sometimes maybe goes into the right shoulder or neck?
No shoulder pain, no back pain. Full feeling would be, the bloating, but, like I said, today it's actually discomfort.
I think the first thing I would try, and this is a common thing where you start to lose your pH in your stomach, and things don't take a while to break down, and that can create bloating because it's the foods that it's not activated, it's not breaking down fast enough, and also the stomach pH activates the release of your own bile salts. So I wouldn't go in the direction of bile salts quite yet. I would go betaine hydrochloride, which will acidify your stomach. And you probably need about 5 before a meal. And it does take some weeks to really get it corrected. But if you take that before you eat, and then you find that, wow, I have less bloating, then we know that's it. Let's say you do that for a bit and doesn't quite get resolved. I'm thinking potentially there could be SIBO, which is some bacteria in the small intestine, which is creating that. But that's kind of a long shot. But the other thing that might help is to take some bile salts or gallbladder formula on an empty stomach, because that tends to keep the bile duct flowing freely. But I would only do that after you try one thing at a time, and the betaine hydrochloride. But the bile salts will help open up those, kind of just like allows the flow of bile to go through the liver and the gallbladder. And so there won't be as much bloating, and you'll get better digestion. But let's start with the betaine hydrochloride.
Okay. And doctor, you said take 5. What's the mgs?
It really depends on, usually, I think the one I have is 300 milligrams tablet. And then it's the digestive formula, which I don't even know if we're in stock with that, but you could find some just betaine hydrochloride and just do like 300 milligrams and then do 5 of those. Now, some people just, if they do 2, it just doesn't really create the effect. So you want to build up the stomach acid over maybe a period of some weeks, and then you're good for a while or permanently. So, but there's a lot of things that can dilute our stomach acid, and then you end up, all of a sudden not digesting, and then your body can then not break things down, and you can have histamine reactions and all sorts of issues. So that could be why you sneeze.
Is there a blood test? I want to go have the whole panel done. Is there something specific that you might have me do so I can see if there's anything else going on there?
Well, you can get a stomach acid test. They have the invasive ones and the non-invasive ones. The one that I like is you actually swallow a pill on a string, goes down your stomach. You lay on your right side, you pull it back up, and then you can tell what's going on with the pH. It's more of a functional test than a blood test, because you want to know what happens, in the different levels of digestion. But doing a blood test is probably not going to give you very much. You need probably you probably do like a stool sample and just look at undigested foods, and that would tell you if you have undigested protein, for example, that can give you a clue on you have a problem with lack of stomach acids.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And then if you try everything and then nothing works, then you can check for SIBO and go to a gastrodoc, and they can tell you exactly what to do. There's a certain gas, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth test in the small intestine.
Right. Yeah. I've been watching your video on that too, and I thought maybe that might be a possibility. So we'll keep plugging away at it and see if we can get it fixed. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Well, it's heartbreaking when someone like Carrie is willing to do everything, be so disciplined, and still has trouble. For me, for instance, 6 Krispy Kremes, no bloating. It's just not fair. So we wish you well.
People don't bloat as much with refined foods. They can get away with the donuts, but they bloat with, some of these more fiber and, whole foods.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, we wish you well. I wish I had her discipline. Okay. The audience is very disciplined because they've already answered the question, which asks, what is the emotional symptom of high blood sugar? And I think everybody's right to some degree. 87% said anxiety or irritability. 10% said fatigue or sleepiness. And 3% say anger.
Anger is correct. Anger, sometimes depression, but anger is the symptom that you would get with high sugar.
Wow, that's really interesting. So 97% of the audience failed the test. 3% congratulations, it said anger, but we're going to give them another shot later on in the show. And let's go back.
Steve, do you remember that guy who we interviewed? I interviewed him. Here's a guy who had serious issues. This is life, not doing too well, completely stuck in anger. and he decided to take his life. So he's from Australia. He went in his room and he was going to starve himself to death. So he lays in his bed. After the third day of fasting, he started feeling better and happier. And wow, why do I feel so good? I don't think I want to do that anymore. And it changed his life. And he started looking at fasting, and that was fascinating. So he's lost a lot of weight, but his plan rebounded on his strategy.
Well, I'm delighted that that's what happened to him. That's a great story, and it's true. Boy, you are what you eat in terms of your emotions, too, at least in my case. Shayna from Facebook, how can you tell, this is an oft-asked question, how can you tell when you tap into fat-burning mode? I don't know, I assume she's going for keto.
Well, one of the best ways to tap into to know is to your appetite. Does your appetite go away, especially between meals? Can you go a long period of time without eating? That's the best indicator, more than weight, anything. And it just tells me you're burning fat between meals. Now, if you could only go for so many hours, then you need to eat. We know you're not burning fat. You're just running on your sugar, up and down, up and down. So I think that's the best indicator to really know, even if you're in ketosis and fat burning, because that's really the first goal of doing this program.
Wonderful. Over to YouTube, Leisha says her kidney numbers are dropping dramatically. I don't know what numbers those are. Maybe you do. What can I do to restore them back to health?
Kidney numbers?
Yeah, that's what she said. Didn't go any further.
Well, I kind of need to know what is it, the filtration rate, what values, is it protein? So I would need to know more specifics on that, but yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. Well, why don't you, write us a little bit more thorough, and we'll kind of look for your questions, see if we can't have you fill us in a little bit more so the doctor can answer your question. And why don't we go with the second quiz question for today? And here it is, Doc.
All right. So what would be the emotional symptom of low blood sugar? Okay. So now we're going to ask this question. What do you guys think? Type in your answers.
Okay, dig into it, audience. And let's see, why don't we go to someone whose camera is working, and that would be Janice from Pennsylvania. And let me unmute you on this side, Janice, and let me look for your wonderful visage here. And Janice, I hope you can hear us. You're on the air with Dr. Berg.
Hello, I'm so excited to meet you.
Hello.
Thank you for the wonderful videos.
Thank you.
So here's my question. I need to heal a fatty liver after 15 years of prednisone use for rheumatoid arthritis. I've already messed up my metabolism, but I need this to work. So here's my question. As a vegetarian who eats fish and dairy, but no meat, and I haven't since I was 16, and I'm 66 years old now, excuse me. And as someone with elevated cholesterol, is keto even possible while I eat only fish? And is it safe for me, given my cholesterol level, for anyone with a higher cholesterol level?
Well, absolutely, because here's some data that you may not know. Cholesterol, many times, especially the kind that can invade your arteries, is converted from carbs. It's converted from carbs. So if you're doing the fatty fish, which I'm glad that you're doing, because now we can get our protein and our omega-3 fatty acids, then you're going to be fine. Then do the rest vegetables, not the grains, not the sugar, because the fatty liver can be coming from non-fat sources. It could be coming from vegan carbohydrates, probably more likely. And so they found that if you do a low carb diet, the fat on your liver potentially can reduce to 50% in 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's exciting news. I would combine the healthy keto with the fish and do intermittent fasting together. That'll be your best bet. I'd probably add into the mix milk thistle, because that's one of the best remedies for supporting liver and improving liver enzymes. So The cruciferous vegetables are great for the liver. So I think you can turn this around pretty A to B, but it is safe for the liver. A high carb diet is not safe for the liver.
Mm.
And then watch my videos on the liver. I think
I've watched quite a few of them. They're really helpful, very helpful. So I'm now drinking lemon juice with in water with apple cider vinegar, but also adding pulverized ginger to that. I don't know if that's.
I like that. That's
And I
great.
drink that off and on all day. Yeah, all alcohol or wine stopped.
Good. Yeah, it's we want to reverse the fatty liver. So yeah, we have to cut that out.
So
Absolutely.
2 weeks, you say?
Yeah, but that's just the start. You'll see significant changes right when you start doing this. Once you start dropping the carb. But see, here's the thing: the fat, that the dietary fat, you can consume more of that if your carbs are low. I'm not talking about vegetable carbs, other carbs. So there's a lot of false information about cholesterol, but and the studies are. It's hard to do a nutritional study on cholesterol because there's so many other variables. So it's hard to isolate. In fact, on any nutritional element, because it's like, how do you know that was the thing? It's really hard. But anyway, I think that's what I would do if I were you.
Thank you. May I ask you a question quickly about dairy?
Sure.
So I read some of Dr. Campbell's China study about dairy. He kind of says that dairy can switch on cancer genes. So I don't like to rely on it too much. I do eat a lot of yogurt. What do you think about dairy?
Well, the studies that he did were on mice, and also he's done some other studies as well. But I think casein is not the best protein in the world, especially if it's like from cows that you don't even know if they've had hormones or not, or so you're dealing with a protein that is a growth hormone. I mean, think about whey protein too, which is another protein in dairy that bodybuilders consume. So it has growth potential properties for cancer. But if you're doing a moderate amount of high quality cheese, let's say Switzerland cheese that's from cows that are really healthy on top of a mountaintop, and you're doing that in a moderate way, I really don't think that's going to be a problem. But if you're doing other cheese that's just commercial cheese, there's a lot of bad things in cheese. I'll tell you right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good luck, Janice. We would love to hear back from you and see if you can square all that cholesterol deal away. And she talked about grinding up ginger. It's a perfect segue to our question from Colleen on Facebook. Wants to know, what are your thoughts of drying and grinding eggshells to add a smoothie for extra calcium? Doesn't that make any sense?
Yeah, I think the type of calcium in eggshells is not the best for our bodies. It's really good for the plant that can absorb these elemental types of calcium that go into the plant that converts it. The plant uses, with the help of bacteria, uses like minerals and metals and things like that. And so it starts to convert it. But our bodies do better with types of minerals that are connected to a protein, either plant-based or even an animal. So I would get your calcium probably from some dairy or vegetables. I wouldn't grind the eggshells up. You might absorb some, but it's not the best. It's kind of like if you take the number one selling vitamin, and I won't mention that name, they use calcium carbonate as the first ingredient, and the whole bottle is really heavy. So it's great as a paperweight, but I would not ingest it because calcium carbonate is like chewing on the cement right outside your house. So not the best source.
Oh, goodness. Okay, well, let's see. Audience is still on it. And the second question was, what is the emotional symptom, let me put it up there, for low blood sugar? And the audience, 85% say grouchiness or irritability, 10% say depression or fear, and 5% say confusion.
Well, high blood sugar, anger, low blood sugar is anxiety, worry, nervous. Okay. So that would be the And I mean, there's shades of in between, but when your blood sugar is low, you get anxiety and you get nervous, you get worried. And that's why a little bit of nutritional yeast or B1 just completely clears it up, because that really can help you with your blood sugars. Potassium can help too, by the way, but B1 is the one that you, and then when you get on a healthy keto plan, boy, does your mood change for the better. It just kind of brings you up, makes you more stable. So you're more yourself. So a lot of people that are kind of in these emotional bands really just have blood sugar issues, up and down, go from anxiety to grouchiness, anger, up and down. I don't know, Steve, if you know anyone like that, but there are people out there like that. I know it's hard to believe.
Well, Dr. Berg has forced me into those experiments. He says, I want you to eat a cup of sugar and call me in the morning. I just feel awful at that point. No, but I have slipped before, but I really do. I joke about it, but I'll tell you what, Dr. Berg has fixed what goes on between my ears. I'm not so worried about weight, though I've lost quite a bit, but I just feel so much better. Intermittent fasting is my main thing, and I just calm down and settle down and don't feel so grumpy. So there really is something to that, obviously. And here's something that affects.
We appreciate that, Steve.
Oh, absolutely. So Carolyn, we appreciate her because she's watching from Facebook. And this is probably a question for a lot of ladies. Because of PCOS, it's almost impossible to lose my belly and lose skin from my C-section. Is it possible to lose them without surgery?
If you fix the cause, which is the androgens are too high, and the androgens are coming because the ovary is converting more male hormone, and that comes from insulin. So if she were to fix the insulin problem, she can fix the androgen problem and her weight problem. So that's what she needs to do, is reduce insulin. And that is the keto plan we've been talking about. So I would definitely consider it.
Wonderful. Okay, Debbie also on Facebook wants to know, which protein would you recommend for smoothies other than whey protein, which you spoke of earlier?
You can do pea protein. That's a good one. Collagen protein. Egg protein would be the best, the whole egg protein. So yeah, that's what I would do.
All right, that's terrific. I tell you what, why don't we launch the next question? Let's see, I think I did that now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, folks. Let's go with this one, a true falser.
All right, true or false? If I can read that. Atherosclerosis is a vascular disease.
Okay, yes or no, audience? Spin the wheel, and it'd be a lot easier to get this right, I'm sure, with a 50-50 chance. Sue Manth from, if I said that right, from YouTube, will doing squats improve my growth hormone?
Well, if you're doing any exercise with intensity, especially the large muscle groups, you are going to spike growth hormone up to like 600%. So yes, that will help you. And especially if it's like don't overtrain and you get enough sleep. So these short bursts of high intensity, using as many muscles as you can, would be awesome. In fact, there's different scales of types of exercises, right? And there's several ways to get there. But if you were to do like a full flat out sprint, which is hard if your knees are bothering you, that would give you a tremendous amount of spike. And then you also have plyometrics, hopping on different things. And then I was in the Russian, it's called the Hungarian bag swing. I was doing that for a while. I like to rotate it. Now I'm really into the sled. There's a guy, if you saw him on YouTube, it's called Toes Over Knees Guy. It's incredible exercises for your knees and legs and hips. And he recommends the sled. So of course I bought one. What a workout. You go backwards, you pull the sled, you push the sled. The best workout. And what's cool is that it's not like weight bearing on your knees. You're kind of going lateral. And so it's good for your back. Love it. And you can get one heck of a workout. You work your feet as well. They have a lot of different sleds you can buy. There's like, you're dragging this thing, you're putting a weight on it. You can do it on your grass. You can do it in your basement. It's pretty cool.
Well, that's wonderful. Let's see. Why don't we go to our next guest in the lineup? And that would be Carolyn. And Carolyn is from the frigid Colorado Springs. And hold on, Carolyn, I want to unmute you, and you're on with Dr. Berg.
Thank you, Steve. Hey, Dr. Berg.
Hi.
So my question might be twofold. 7 weeks ago, I had my gallbladder removed. And I'm actually underweight because I got so sick before it got removed, and it was actually sudden. It wasn't stones. It was non-functioning after a virus. So I didn't have the typical attacks that you would get. So doctors thought it was in my head for so long until they finally did all the function tests. And unfortunately, it had to come out. I didn't know how to save it. And I was so miserable. So I am underweight. I'm still having trouble. I'm 7 weeks out. I'm having trouble still with healthy fats, regular fats, getting back to a normal diet. I don't have, this might be too much information. I don't have diarrhea. So that's never been a side effect of mine. It's been more constipation before the gallbladder removal. Now I'm pretty regular since it came out, but I'm trying to gain weight, trying to do it right. I have high cholesterol, so you never know that by looking at me, apparently. I have very bad genes. And so my cholesterol numbers hover between 220 and 240. And so I'm trying to find a way, I need to get healthy again, and I'm trying to find if keto can work for me without a gallbladder, and how I can get those fats back in my system. Because right now I'm still eating low fat, non-fat, and I need to gain another 10 to 15 pounds.
Well, the good news is that you have the perfect symptoms for some bile salts. I would do like a gallbladder formula bile salt, as well as an additional bile salt called the TUDCA. It's called TUDCA. And I would do the TUDCA.
Well, I also have GERD, grade level 2.
Okay. So TUDCA is a bile salt that you take on an empty stomach, take 2, and then the other one you just take with the meals, because the fact that you had constipation in the past tells me that you were deficient in bile, and just kind of made that area of your body weak. The virus kind of went in there and did the rest. But here's the thing. You're trying to gain weight right now. And part of your digestive system is missing. So you need some help. The gallbladder normally concentrates the bile. So then when you eat, it can release the bile to extract the fats. Right now, that's probably not happening to the degree that you need it to. So now you just have to give your body some bile to help make things work a little bit better. And because even though the liver's producing it, it's not going to be concentrated enough. So if you take it with food, now you can actually absorb the omega-3 fatty acids. Now you can absorb the fat-soluble vitamins. And the one thing that helps you mobilize cholesterol so it doesn't back up and build up in the blood is bile. So that's really what you need. That's what you've been missing. And so these are all just kind of like epigenetic effects to help someone with the genetic issue that you have. So I think that would help. And then you probably need a little bit of help with your GERD. So I would take some betaine hydrochloride, which is a supplement you could just take right before you eat, and then take the bile salt after you eat, and just play around with the dosage, because then when you start eating, you keep that valve nice and closed so it doesn't back up, and then you can actually digest more food, which will be a really great thing. So the combination of the betaine hydrochloride to help your acid, and then also the bile salts are what you need.
And the bile salts, would that in your gallbladder formula, would that be sufficient, or would you recommend different?
I would use that for the bile salts right after the meal. And then I would buy some additional TUDCA. I don't sell that. You just have to look that up, find that TUDCA, which is a different type of bile salt on an empty stomach. And what that's just going to do is going to keep the bile ducts really flowing nicely, so your liver's happy and your system is working better. And there's so many miraculous things that happen with TUDCA, and especially even with your cholesterol levels. So I think you'll like that.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm on a PPI for my GERD. I tried to wean off a couple weeks ago post-surgery, and take apple cider vinegar, tried to do that, and it made everything inflamed and burning. So I don't know if I did it wrong. I don't know how to wean.
So the problem is you're stuck between a rock and a hard place because you'll feel better temporarily until you eat again. So you're going to have to figure out how you're going to slowly transition, because we have to acidify you to keep that valve closed. But you probably have gastritis. You probably have inflammation now from all this. So it's going to be a juggle, and you might need a little chlorophyll and zinc L-carnosine for just to heal the inflammation up in the stomach. Probably a probiotic. I think you're just going to have to juggle things and work on the different parts of your digestion until you can eventually come off that. Because long term, you start removing that. Well, guess what that's going to do? You're not going to be able to even produce bile, because that's one thing that triggers it is acid. So you don't have it. So then the valve can't close, and then you might feel like you have too much acid, which in fact you have not enough acid. But anyway, there's a bit more to study up on that topic, but it's going to be a juggle. You're going to have to play around with these things and do kind of a gradual type thing. I would find an alternative doctor, an MD that you can work with that can help you with this transition, because some of the doctors are like, no, you have to be on this PPI for the rest of your life and there's nothing else we can do. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Carolyn, for a great question. And we asked the audience a question. This one was a true false, and it asked say that for me, Doc. I got it.
Atherosclerosis.
Thank you. It's a vascular disease, and I bet the audience could pronounce that. But here's their answer: 50% respondents say true, 50% say false.
Okay, it's false. Do you know why? Because you can't get atherosclerosis in your veins, and 50% of your vascular system is in the veins and capillaries. You never see atherosclerotic plaquing in your veins or capillaries or the small blood vessels. It's mainly in the arteries. So it's really an artery disease, not a vascular disease. And I'm going to be doing a video on why it occurs in the vascular system and not the other. And it's going to be interesting. So especially since, heart disease is the number one death in the world. So it might be a good idea just to know a little bit more about it.
Absolutely. Ben Wu from YouTube would like to know, if you eat sufficient amounts of leafy greens, do you still need supplements of omega-3s?
Especially, yeah, because you're not going to get very much omega-3 in leafy green vegetables. It comes in fish, fatty fish. You can also get it in algae, but no, you're not going to get a lot of it in. You get like a pre omega-3 fatty acid in some greens, but it has to be converted. And so, unless you're doing cod liver oil or fatty fish or sardines, you're not going to get enough omega-3, and that's really a big thing that's missing in a lot of people's diet.
Wow. Well, Catherine from YouTube wants to know what your thoughts are on bioidentical hormones, in this case, estrogen and progesterone.
I would try other means first before you go that route, because as soon as you start taking hormones, your own gland that makes those hormones now doesn't have to produce the sufficient amounts. So now we're kind of creating this complexity where now your glands kind of shut down. Now they're dependent on it. And then how do you know how much to give the person? And over time, things fluctuate. I would try to do other things. Find out why the gland is not producing the hormones in the first place. That would be a good question to answer. And there's also phytoestrogens that you can take, which they don't give you more estrogen. They help balance your ratios out. So there's other things you can do.
Sorry, Doc, I reached for my iced tea. And now I've got it in my grasp. And Flower Love, she claims is her name, from Facebook. Will monk fruit sweetener in my coffee break a fast? What's the best sweetener that you recommend?
No, monk fruit won't. I personally, it's a little bit it has an aftertaste, so I won't do that. But you can do it, not a problem. You can do the stevia. You can do erythritol, which won't break your fast. Now, xylitol is a little bit higher on the glycemic index, but it tastes just like sugar. That's what I use in my coffee, but I don't have much. I'll just have one packet in my small little cup of coffee. I should show people how big it is. I mean, it's like tiny. So, so that's what I would put.
All right, great deal. Melinda from Facebook, I've just found out I'm allergic to yeast through blood testing. I have to stop taking your nutritional yeast and just take B1 supplements. Is there anything else? Is that the same kind of yeast, Doc?
Well, it's rare, but you can have a yeast to any protein, and there's protein in yeast, so there could be something there or some sensitivity. So I would just find another natural source of B1, which there are out there. It's not easy to find, but keep looking because you need those B vitamins. See, here's the thing. If you look at natural bees, they normally always use yeast to get their bees. And if you look at the back of the label, sometimes some companies will have these massive levels of B vitamins from yeast. And that's because they fortify them with synthetic vitamins. So people don't know that, but that's what they do.
Interesting. Well, I love this guy's name. I'm going to read his question. Just Uncle Deathy. So Uncle Death with a Y. So we can say something about his mood. From YouTube, how can I calm down an outbreak of Crohn's disease? That's a bad one.
Well, there's something you're eating that's irritating your colon. And so we want to, you might probably benefit from a carnivore diet, at least temporarily, because the vegetables, fiber tend to irritate it, not to mention other things too. Probably if you're doing any wheat, you should stop that. Of course, gluten, I don't even need to mention gluten because you probably already know that, But yeah, there's a lot of things that can irritate the colon, and you probably want to go on a carnivore for a while.
Okay, wonderful. And here's our next question, Doc.
Okay, so let's see. Is it possible to feel no symptoms when you have high blood pressure?
Boy, is that a good question. Audience, dig into that, because I've had slightly elevated blood pressure and I've never felt anything, but I don't have super high. So anyway, let's see. Why don't we go to our final guest in the green room, and that's Christina, and she's from my old haunt, Irvine, California. And Christine, you are on. If you've unmuted yourself, you're on with Dr. Berg.
All right. Hi, Dr. Berg. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Hello, hi.
I just wanted to first thank you so much. I found your videos earlier this year, and you've made such a difference. And I appreciate you just empowering your viewers with knowledge. I felt like I knew kind of the basics, but your videos really helped me understand my body and my health and really take more control of it. So thank you for that.
Great.
And I just give you a little background. I stumbled upon your videos because I was experiencing frequent headaches pretty much on a weekly basis. I tried to rule out as many things as possible and just nothing would work. And I was in this cycle of taking Tylenol to help with the pain of my headache, because I'm allergic to aspirin and ibuprofen. So I've been taking way too much Tylenol within my lifetime and stuck on a cycle. And it wasn't until your videos that I realized how connected headaches are to the liver, and that I was likely just damaging my liver by taking so much Tylenol, and then, it leading to more headaches. So anyways, I focused with your plan, healthy keto and intermittent fasting, and really focusing on repairing my liver, lots of lemon water. I haven't had any headaches, so thank you so much. It's been 3 months,
Great.
no headaches and no Tylenol. But to my question, so I've been following your plan and everything has been going well. I do OMAD or 2 meals a day spaced out like about 4 hours. So I'll have like at least a good 20 hours of fasting, but I still find that the sweet tooth snack attack hits. And if I do give in, I do like a dark chocolate. I'll do berries, like a 6-ounce carton of berries, or I'll make like a quick little smoothie with like strawberries, a little bit of pea protein, water, just to like give a little bit of that sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
And I know from your videos, you're going to say, well, you're not really in ketosis, Christina, but I did have lab work done and they confirmed that I had ketones in my urine. So I don't know if it's a habit, if I've just gone my whole life. I was previously like a huge like carbaholic, chocoholic. So maybe I'm just out of habit, like need a little bit of sweet. But I just want to get your take, like how often can I do this? Is it going to knock me out of ketosis or slow down my progress? And kind of what your thoughts are on my healthy dessert options.
So do you have them as a dessert or do you have them between the meals?
I have them at the very end. So if it's my OMAD, it's just at the end. If it's my 2 meals, it'll be at the end of my dinner.
Wow. Well, so and then the chocolate, is it keto friendly or just regular chocolate?
Keto friendly, because I realize dark chocolate often has sugar in it. So I'll do like a Lily's chocolate. They'll do I'm not I think they use stevia sweetened. So I know there are some carbs in it, but no added sugar.
You know, I think that you're probably within the normal guidelines of keto. I think that's why your ketones are showing up, because your carbs probably are not higher despite berries or the sweetened chocolate. So you might be okay. The thing that I would do if I were you, I would get a little glucose test to just look at what your glucose is, because if you have a history of liver damage, which probably you do, and bad insulin resistance, you might your liver might be making sugar behind your back, creating these little cravings. And so in that case, if you checked your blood sugar, there's something called the dawn phenomenon, which you wake up with blood sugar that's a little bit higher. That would be interesting. That would be really interesting. If it's like close to 100 or more than 100, then you know, okay, I need to work on my liver a little bit more. And then you take milk thistle. That's a really good one. And I think I've talked about this as well. NAC is a good one. And then periodic prolonged fasting. So maybe once every 2 weeks you go 2 days without eating. I mean, that would really help your liver if you could do it. And then it's going to take some time, I think, to fully get to the point where your liver is back to normal. It takes like 3 years, actually. So just realize that and just keep working on it. But I think if you check your blood sugars, if you are like 80, like right around 80 or less, check it periodically. I think you might be okay by doing these berries and the chocolate. And I think you're probably within the guidelines. So I thought you were going to consume these between the meal, but you're not. So that's good. So I think you're doing great.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Berg. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Well, thanks. And Christina, you didn't even brag about the beautiful weather that greets you every day there in Southern California. I do meet that, so that's really cool. And thanks for joining us on the Dr. Berg Show. And please do, like we ask everyone that joins in the green room, to let us know after some period of time how you're doing, because Dr. Berg really cares. And
Steve, I used to live in San Diego. Now I live in Virginia, and I tell you, that winter, every year you got to go through that winter. It's like, oh, here we go. Now they have to kind of go through this. In fact, it's going to snow tonight, Steve. Can you believe that? So it's like, I'm done with this weather. I'm ready for spring and summer. How about you?
I sure am. And I lived, well, as I said, in Orange County, and I would always fly back east because all my relatives were in the east for Christmas. And of course, it's kind of nice because sometimes there's snow and there's sprinkling, the sparkling lights. But when I would fly back into John Wayne, Orange County Airport, get out, and the palm fronds were sort of clacking together in the Santa Ana winds, I said, this is home. This is the place to be. You can keep your lousy snow and your chains and your salt and all that junk. So it really is hard to beat.
Understood, Steve.
All right, let's get back to work here. Here's our fourth question. Is it possible to feel no symptoms with high blood pressure? And our audience rolled the dice on 100% saying, yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. In fact, when the heart becomes weak, it starts to work harder because it's not able to put the output is not be able to, you're not able to put the blood flow out like a pump, because it's a muscle that produces like a little pump. And so now the body has to compensate. And so it compensates by increasing the pressure and the retention of sodium. And this is why we have high blood pressure as one cause. So here you are, you have high blood pressure because of it. But guess what? Now we have, because of the compensation, we get more blood flow to the tissue and you're feeling great. You feel no symptoms, but you have high blood pressure. Then you take a pill to lower the blood pressure. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to start seeing those symptoms again. Dizziness, lightheadedness, and like, oh my gosh, I'm getting side effects from the medication. Yes, and your heart is working harder. So if I'm not mistaken, I may have released that video today. If not, I'll release it tomorrow. But there's some interesting information about how the body compensates, and you have to understand that these symptoms, you should understand them instead of treat them.
Well, that sounds very wise, doctor. And let's see, Michelle wants your wisdom on Facebook. She's 9 weeks past an open compound tibia and fibia fracture. Ouch. What's the best way to promote bone growth and healing?
I did definitely get on a really good supplement that has the trace minerals, of course, with the high quality available calcium and vitamin D and K2, which will make your bones really solid. But the trace minerals are going to be key too, because calcium is not just about bone. You need boron, selenium, zinc, a lot of factors. And then of course I would do a good amount of fasting. That's going to help strengthen and help you heal. And also a good amount of vitamin C from the leafy greens. The best source of vitamin C, Steve, would be sauerkraut. So anyone also who has digestive problems should be consuming sauerkraut. It's just such a great thing to, it has the cabbage, it's fermented, and it will help your digestion. And even if you have gastritis, apparently you can do sauerkraut out of all the vegetables. Cabbage is the best vegetable for that.
Wonderful. Jimmy from Facebook, boy, a lot of people face this in their family. What's the best diet for someone with dementia?
Well, let's see if I can remember that. If my memory, I'm being sarcastic. Now, you need to do healthy keto and intermittent fasting as the most important thing for dementia, because this is all about the brain, and the brain needs ketones. If you feed the brain ketones, it bypasses this dysfunctional glucose problem with the synapses and the nerves, and your brain will start to work better. So, and I would also, in addition to being on the ketogenic plan, I would also take ketones. And this is like one time I would recommend taking ketones, exogenous ketones as a supplement, is when you have dementia or Alzheimer's or even Parkinson's or any brain problem.
Well, that's hopeful. And here's our final question of the day, Doc.
All right, let's see here. Out of all 95 nutrients, which nutrient deficiency is most involved in diabetes?
Well, you got to sort through all 95. All right, good luck, audience. And by the way, for our audience around the world, why don't you talk a little bit about the product availability internationally? It's getting better, I think.
We have different channels, different languages. In Russian, we're in Taiwanese, which is actually Chinese, and also Arabic channel. We have Germany, we have German, we have French, Spanish. And so for those of you that can't get products because the shipping is crazy expensive, there's some other links that you can buy the products. So I think we're going to put those down below, and we're constantly working on that to make these products available. And just as a side note on products in general, just to let you know, when you buy a product, even companies that sell products, like it's a lot of times they don't even know where the source of those ingredients are. So I am working aggressively on putting that source on our website so people can see that we're going quality, and we're not trying to get the cheapest thing from China or whatever. We want something that's extremely real and that's grown in soils that is fertile and that has all the trace minerals. It makes a huge difference. There's an amazing book, Steve, I have to share with you. I don't know if I showed this last week, but it's called, it's my book of the week. Can you see that? Soil,
Sure can.
Grass, and Cancer. This is an amazing book. Unfortunately, it was $250. Couldn't find a used one, and I wasn't going to buy it until it haunted me because I was thinking, wow, I was like, it must be good if it's that expensive, and why isn't there any used books? And so I finally got it, and it's an incredible researcher from France that did a deep dive and found these huge relationships between lack of trace minerals in the soil and what it does to the plant and the animal. And I'm telling you, our health comes from the soil. And so the fertility of the soil is what I'm interested in. So we're doing research now in my own greenhouse, as well as growing tomatoes. I hooked up with a huge organization that can start testing all the phytonutrients. And so I'll be talking about that. And then we can share this with everyone else. So they should start growing their own gardens and their food if possible. So there's some really cool things coming down in the pipeline.
That's just wonderful. And we were so efficient, and so was our audience, that we were able to get to all 5 questions. And the last one asked, out of all 95 nutrients, which nutrient deficiency is involved in diabetes? The audience came back, 45% of them, with zinc is deficient, 30% say chromium is deficient, and 10% say B1, and 10% say magnesium, and 5% say potassium. Thank you for that thorough study, Terry. What do you say, Doc?
Well, it's saddening, Steve, that this tells me that only 5% of the people on social media watched my recent video that I talked about this and I revealed this. It's potassium. You need potassium for diabetes. It's the most important nutrient. So now I know who's watching my videos and who's not. So I think you guys need to step it up, start watching more videos, and get this information so you can stay healthy.
Oh, audience, 95% of you fell short of the answer. That's all right. Just encourage you to study more of Dr. Berg's videos. And let's see, we've got a few minutes left. Why don't we go to another question? Because again, we love our social media attendees. Hans Gu from YouTube has lost 30 kilograms. That's great on keto and IF, and very grateful for all your videos. But now a sad result from that is he has a lot of loose skin around his stomach. What can Hans do?
Well, the skin is an organ. It's the largest organ of the body. And so what you want to do is you want to start doing a combination of a lot more exercise and also a lot more periodic prolonged fasting. Very important to start to create this condition of autophagy. And autophagy is the recycling of old damaged proteins, as in skin tissue, to start to bring this thing back. You know, if you were 700 pounds, like we had one gentleman, and it lost, and he went down to 200 pounds, and you're going to have extra skin. I'm sorry, you're going to have extra skin. You're probably going to have surgery, but I don't know if that's going to come back. But if it's a moderate or minor amount, I think you can do something about it. It does take some time.
That's great. Well, Doc, speaking of time.
Listen, everyone, I really appreciate your questions. You guys were amazing. And thank you for at least the 5% that are watching my videos. Stay tuned for more content that I think you're going to like this upcoming next week. And I'll see you on Friday. Have a good one.